A pleasant Friday morning to you, and welcome to the Friday Football Feast from Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, your home for Minnesota Vikings football. The Vikings have a preseason game 8 days from today against the Las Vegas Raiders. PA and Paul Charchian, PA and Charch feasting, Nordo by our side from the TCO radio studios. Vikings practice later today, and later in the radio show, we conclude our Friends on Foes series today, featuring J.B. Long into his 9th season calling L.A. Rams games, and we're going to analyze the L.A. Rams from many areas and many angles. But for the purpose of having the identity of fantasy football with us here for the Friday Football Feast, let's quick twitch analyze the fantasy value of Kyren Williams. Start there, and good morning.
Good morning. I imagine that J.B. Long has been there 9 seasons because apparently the Rams moved 9 seasons ago, and they cleaned out their old crew, I suppose, right?
Yeah, my man, he's heading into his 9th season. He's called 2 Super Bowls and 1 win.
Jeez. And you're on what, 25?
Yeah, 23.
23? Yeah, that's not fair.
9 years, 2 Super Bowls, 1 victory of the world. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. The running back situation for the... By the way, is this the 17th of 17? Get to know your enemy bits right
done.
Here? Well done.
Started with Courtney Cronin, Chicago Bears, all the way through J.B. Long.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The running back situation for the Rams is fascinating from a fantasy standpoint because Kyren Williams was basically a top 5 fantasy running back when he was healthy, which was most of the year, but he did miss a big chunk of time. But then they drafted Blake Corum, the Michigan kid, who had all the success running there. And people reasonably wonder, okay, Kyren Williams got like all the work last year, but there was also nobody else to hand the ball to on that depth chart you would ever want to have the ball in their hands. So now that they presumably have got a reasonable second option, is Kyren Williams still going to be 1A, 1B, and 1C in this rushing offense, which would mean that he should really be like a first-round fantasy draft pick?
Right.
Or is Blake Corum going to eat into a big chunk of that and effectively kind of neutralize both of them?
Well, and they've been a bit bullish on Corum, haven't they, as well? I mean, the conversation around Corum is he's undersized. He's not necessarily going to run away from everybody in any respect. But, I mean, you can't argue with what he had, like a touchdown a game, if not more, 50-some TDs at Michigan. Yeah. And so now he's there. And all I've heard from post-draft rookie camp on is you're going to be surprised by this cat. He is diminutive. He's got a little bit of bowling ball to him, but he could absolutely be the yang to the yin as it pertains to Kyren.
Yeah, and Kyren's he's not a bad back. But he's not special. I mean, he's not somebody where you go, well, we don't dare pull carries away from Kyren Williams because we're leaving explosive plays off the field. No, I don't think it's that situation. And Corum has some special traits that we all saw in Michigan.
What do you do with Cooper Kupp? He has 21 starts the last 2 years. The Super Bowl year, he had 145 receptions, 1,947 yards. And 16 touchdowns. Holy cow.
Yeah, it's, for Cooper Kupp, came into last year hurt, then took him a long time to sort of get right, and then he had nagging injuries all season that he tried to play through, and meanwhile, Puka Nacua just blew up.
Right.
Had one of the best seasons in the history of rookie wide receivers.
Yeah.
So now, which Cooper Kupp are we going to get? I believe 31 years old was last year the beginning of the decline for Cooper Kupp. Or does he have like 1, maybe 2 more good, high productive seasons left in him? I think he does. And I think a lot, and Puka Nacua is great. All the accolades he got last year totally deserved. But I think Cooper Kupp at full health is still a unique problem for people running out of the slot, the way he makes separation and still can in all probability. We didn't see it so much last year, but I think assuming he stays healthy here, he's not going to go back to being what he was before Puka Nacua because Puka's going to probably lead the team in targets. But I still think Cooper Kupp's sitting on a rebound year from last year.
And that's what I'm curious about is what does the drop-off or the beginning of the end look like? He has only played in less than, you said it was 21 starts. And some of those have been under a hobbled condition in themselves.
Yeah.
So, what is it? Is it, well, he set a standard or set a potential all-time mark with that 1 year with nearly 2,000 yards receiving, all the touchdowns and everything, gets to hoist the Lombardi, all of that. So that's probably not attainable, but he's still an 1,200 yard guy with 100 catches, and he still has some breakaway. You get him wide open. His route running is unbelievable. He'll get away from you for 60 and score. So, no, if the drop-off for Cooper Kupp is that, then he's still a badass.
Where does he go?
Fantasy drafts right now, Cooper Kupp's going 4th, 5th round.
Got it.
That's about right. I think, as
behind Puka Nacua?
Yeah, Puka's going like end of 1st round, beginning of 2nd round. I mean, there's, I think anybody that watched him saw special traits from him. And what
well, he's not super fast, which makes him even better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Devontae Adams is not a blazer, but, it could be argued he's the best overall receiver in the NFL.
There might be no more overrated trait for a wide receiver than speed. I mean, look at the track.
Unless you're Tyreek Hill.
Yeah,
and
right.
It's the way
it's the short area speed for him.
And he's diminutive, which, right.
What Tyreek Hill does so well is turns on a dime and then hits the jets. And and nobody can, you can't keep up with his ability to make those cuts. And now he's got cushion, and then he hits the jets, and the acceleration's absurd. The guys who never seem to pan out are these track stars who run the 4.37 straight.
Willie Gault.
Ronaldo
right? Nehemiah.
Yes, if you want to go back to the 70s and 80s.
Darius Hayward Bay.
John Ross as a more recent example.
Oh, that's a good one from Washington.
Yep.
Bengals cat. What was it,
Bengals.
4.22 or something like insane?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, those guys almost never end up being meaningfully good receivers. We want guys that can get open first and foremost, and then ideally after the catch, and then, by the way, catch the ball. Like Quentin Johnston can't seem to catch the ball.
Really?
Maybe get open a little bit, can't catch anything. The kid taken right ahead of Jordan Addison.
Yeah.
Vikings dodged, that might have been a gift.
Are we 2 for 2 in dodging here?
Yeah,
because Jalen Reagor goes behind in front of JJ, and now Quentin Johnston.
It all comes out in the wash. We didn't dodge Laquan.
Well, there is that.
Ooh.
There is that.
Yeah,
that was the year we wanted Michael Thomas, I believe.
His run blocking was fantastic, though.
Now,
it was.
So what do you think?
Still in the league, by the way.
Yes, he is.
What do you for now? What do you think of this probability? That because McVay loves Cooper Kupp and he's one of the great red zone threats really in the last 20 years of the NFL, they Puka Nacua for show and they Cooper Kupp for dough. And here's why I bring it up. Because the BYU kid went for nearly 1,500 yards. Man, he was targeted 160 times. Jeez. But 6 touchdowns. So 6 touchdowns, good number. But, I mean, I'm just kind of vibing right now and just feeling instinctively we're going to Puka Nacua for show and Cooper Kupp for dough.
That's a fascinating angle. I'm kind of listening to that. And what makes Cooper Kupp so fascinating from a scoring situation? Slot receivers almost never are goal line threats. Like inside the 10-yard line. Those aren't guys where you've built an offense around your slot receiver.
Yeah.
Usually it's Devontae Adams, Adam Thielen as the 2 best recent examples of receivers who get targeted and have plays run just for them from inside the 10-yard line.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers to Devontae Adams was freaking lethal. It was like giving the ball to Larry Kinnebrew at the 2-yard line. It was an automatic touchdown. Now,
did A.J. Dillon land anywhere?
No, he's still with the Packers.
He's still with the Packers.
Oh, he's still in Green Bay.
Many believe he's going to get cut.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, and there are people already projecting him onto the Vikings, by the way, to get him back with Aaron Jones.
Yeah, no, that ain't happening.
I don't think.
Well, Josh Jacobs,
I don't want him.
Josh Jacobs is a guy you don't need an A.J. Dillon type of guy for, do you? I mean, he's an absolute workhorse back. He's proven it his entire career.
Yeah, and a much more dynamic back at that.
Indeed.
I mean, the way A.J. Dillon is built, the guy should be unstoppable for 3 yards.
Right.
He should just be dragging 4 defenders behind him.
He should be A.J. Horde.
Right. He should be A.J. Horde at a minimum. And instead, we got a guy with the Packers have a guy with very few moves and who goes down way easier than somebody with his quadzilla build should have. So we were shocked that they re-signed him. They could have put that money towards Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
I don't know. Everybody's baffled by the Aaron Jones decision, but great for us.
How excited were you last night with the Hall of Fame game?
Football?
Well, it's a return to football, but just Davis Mills.
Did you see how good he looked?
You see how unbelievable he looked? Davis Mills,
looked efficient. Took what they gave him.
Might be a couple of years late on this thing, and you got a nice one right in front of him. But I mean, you got to start somewhere, right?
Got to start somewhere. Look, you'll remember that draft.
I can't watch Davis Mills and not think of you.
Thank you. And I'm glad because that draft, the Vikings in the third round took Kellen Mond one pick before Davis Mills.
Yeah.
And at the time, I'm like, oh, I don't like Mond. I really like Davis Mills. I wish we would have done this with Davis Mills because at least he projects to be an NFL level quarterback.
Yeah.
And I didn't think Mond did. So I was grousing about it then, and Davis Mills still in the league, and it's easy to look good in the Hall of Fame game, but I don't care.
So as the Friday Football Feast negotiates the journey today, we will get into the first unveiling, unfurling, and/or display of the new kickoff rule.
Yeah,
there were 8 kickoffs last night, a long of 31. The average starting position was the 25.5, and there was one touchback, but the freakazoid nature of just how it looks bears conversation, and that'll come up later. The radio show is produced by Maxwell Fuller. He guides the great ship Love Covenant from the 651 Carpets Plus studios. Nordo is on site. I'm Paul Allen with Paul Charchian. This is the Friday Football Feast. The set list is courtesy of TimberTech and TimberTech.com. We are at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, home to your Minnesota Vikings.
Find our Mall of America street team all summer long out at our station events. Come find us and ask us about our MOA mystery cards where everyone is a winner. See where we'll be next at KFAN.com. Keyword calendar.
Welcome back. It's the Friday Football Feast. 8 days in front of the preseason opener for the Minnesota Vikings hosting the Las Vegas Raiders. It is the Vikings' only home preseason game. And the boom is at about 3 o'clock. Then they're off to Cleveland, then Philadelphia, then at the New York Giants to begin the regular season. And commencing right now, Vikes Bites. And here's Nordo.
Vikes Bites presented by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. Go to thousandhillslifetimegraze.com. I mean, you can shop online. A box of meat shows up at your doorstep. That's pretty sweet. Or you go to your local Coburns, your local co-op. They support local athletes staying local as well. Dinkytown Athletes. It's a Clearwater, Minnesota-based company. So thank you, Thousand Hills. You guys were talking about Davis Mills in the Hall of Fame game last night? Okay, well, did you guys watch the kickoff?
That was the most exciting part of the game for many, yes. And it was fascinating to see how it ended up working. Yeah. And, I'd read about the rules.
Right.
But it's totally different when you actually see it in action.
Visualization.
Yeah, for sure.
No, the rules seem completely nonsensical on paper. But then I saw it. But I have to say, after the way and the amount of time, it's not like we spent a ton of time on it, but you know what I mean? We've talked about this several different instances. It was kind of anticlimactic last night.
Yeah.
They kicked it short. When they return, they have to return it at that spot. So they grinded it out to the 27 or 28 versus, just a normal touchback scenario. It was kind of anticlimactic overall.
But at least for my taste or for my eye, you can see the land of opportunity. You can see if there's one mistake
One
made,
breakdown, yep.
It's over. I mean, it's probably 2 because it's what special teams coordinators watched last night. It's new as it goes here, but they've watched a lot of XFL film. And as we mentioned yesterday, I think as the season moves on, a big key here compared to the way the XFL does it is between the 40 and the 35 is that the coverage guys begin at the 40 and not the 35.
Right.
So the landing zone's the 20. If somebody tries to get sneaked, the 2 worst case scenarios here, the ball bouncing before the 20, play dead, you're going to the 40, or it goes out of bounds, you're going to the 40. So those are facets you can tell they hyperactively are trying to avoid. Steven Sims had one, and there was another cat where when you watch it back, there's a jump cut from getting another 10 to 15 yards. It's the coverage guys are on you a lot faster than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So it's body type, it's jitterbug type style. It's what you said about receivers, where straight line speed. Yes, if you get by them, then it's required, but it's a completely different type of player that's going to be needed back there. And quite honestly, I think the NFL has brought life to something that was dead.
Well, it was dead. And they gave out the stat during the broadcast, but I don't remember exactly what it was. But it was something like 92% of kickoffs were touchbacks. Mm-hmm. It was a non-play. Mm-hmm. And, it was boring television. And so I'm glad that they've found a way to make it so that you are incented on both sides to return the ball.
Yeah.
And that, kudos to the NFL for addressing a serious problem and coming up with a possible solution for it. Here's the player who's perfect as the return guy.
For us?
No, any team.
Yeah.
Cordero Patterson.
Yeah. And you know what?
And that's part of it, too, is Cordero wasn't returning the ball last night. So that could be a factor when you start getting your best of the best in the mix.
Yep.
And I'm glad you said that, because when this whole thing came out, I thought Cordero is going to be the worst, or like he's too big. He's not Cordero. It takes a minute to get going, but he's so big in the hips and the thighs and so tough to bring down. He's not of the jitterbug variety. Mm-hmm. I was wrong, because the more I learned about it, and then off what I saw last night, is the massive advantage returners have is running up on it.
Yeah.
They're full speed. The rest of Rube Nation is not.
Correct.
So Cordero, I think you're dead right. Because he's, the greatest kick returner in the history of the NFL. But nevertheless, he's strong enough to get out of that first tackle and fast enough to get by the second wave. The kicker has no shot. So I've completely flipped on that, where I was thinking, like say Dante Hall, we're still in the game. Well, he'd be unbelievable.
Yeah.
Here, Brandon Powell's been used a lot. Kene Nwanwu's not twitchy in my estimation, but he's fast. As I said yesterday to Lieber, Justin Jefferson would be unbelievable at this, because he's twitchy. He makes people miss. He slides and he's fast, but you ain't going to throw 18 back there. But I think you're right. I mean, the Cordero Patterson types, man, that's going to be tough.
You hit on an extremely salient point that I haven't heard anybody else really articulate. Because these returners get 10, 15-yard run-up, they're at full speed.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to be the quick twitch, instant accelerating guy.
Right.
What you want is somebody who can break a tackle, that has the vision to see the lanes opening, and then the long speed to hit that. And that's
another big advantage the returners have is they don't have to go ball guy, because the guys can't move. You're like looking, okay, where they're coming from.
You mean where their heads are?
Is it coverage left, coverage right? Have they start 5 on each side? But when they come running down the field, previously speaking, well, they would angle to different areas. So therefore, wow, they're strong on the right. We have a left return set up. I'm in business here.
Right.
Where now you can just look at it, run, catch it, and then they're taking off from a standstill. And if you and again, if you get by that first wave, you're in business, man.
Which nobody did last night. But it's going to happen. And because almost all you have two players who are back behind the scrum. You got the kicker, and then one other player.
Yeah.
So
wasn't it weird when Holder guy was out? Tommy Townsend.
Yeah.
He held the ball, and so 12th man's on the field. And then boom, you kick it, and he runs off.
Right.
Yeah, it's just strange to see.
Yeah, that is odd, isn't it? But there are going to be guys where if you just get past that initial scrum of players, just beat the kicker. You're gone. There's going to be some long touchdowns.
From a special teams coordinator standpoint, and you saw it a little bit last night, is I think it was the Bears who were defending a kick against Steven Sims, where you have 10 guys, okay? But they don't all come running down to the guy. You have some who drop back to wherever the film study is going to take them, thinking your tendencies are, when this is shown, you go this way.
Right.
Well, if you drop guys back in the wrong spots, now you have 7 or 8, against all the blockers and the returner. So it's still such a work in progress. But I felt it after the first two returns. You could just see, one guy slipped, and if he didn't slip, then he could have gone left for another 10. But you can just see that, again, the NFL has taken a dead, antiquated bit and brought life to it.
Yeah, they did it with the extra point, right? 10 years ago, the extra point was a 98% make. Mm-hmm. It was a non-factor. Okay, let's back it up. Whatever, 20 yards, and let's make this thing a 90% make rate.
And then Justin Tucker made 60 in a row, and he's like, you guys want to go back to the 40 to even this thing out?
Right.
Well, the only thing that's left now is they still, however, have completely neutered the onside kick.
Yeah, I know.
And so
the onside kick was dead anyway when they went 5-on-5, five on each side,
but
mandatory.
But I think every various gradation of it has led it to being less and less likely,
which is too bad.
Now there's a bit you can only do it in the fourth quarter or something like that.
And losing, you have to be losing, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
The surprise onside kick being dead. That's a little bit of a buzzkill because you can catch teams off guard if they're not paying attention. They're lazy, got losing records, thinking about the off season. You can catch somebody off guard with an onside kick, even 5x5. But now that's dead too.
Yeah, and which is a little too bad. You would think one of the best things that can happen in any sporting activity is to have the team that's losing make a thrilling come from behind victory.
Right.
And you're taking some of the teeth out of that, unfortunately.
Yeah, but if you score and you open up two scores, middle of the fourth quarter, and it's windy or you have weather elements and kicker guy mishits it, or even tries to get too cute and that sucker bounces at the 21 and they stop the play and you're all of a sudden at the 40.
Yeah,
if you're down 10, if you're down 10, you're 3 plays in 90 seconds for making it a one-score game,
Well, yeah. Well, it's what the Vikings lived through against the Saints in 2009.
What do you mean?
Well, we kicked off. Saints returned it to the 40. They made two first downs, 3 first downs, and then they kicked the field goal and it was game over.
Griffin ripped up his ACL on the kick. Asher Allen,
why you got to bring that up? And then Sean
because
Payton,
I'm still haunted by it 14 years later. That's why.
And then Sean Payton with the surprise onside kick in the
Super Bowl.
Yeah. I loved it. God, I'm so happy for his win. Everything that he had to go through.
You've been saying that for years.
Oh, yeah.
You love the Netflix show about, that coming of age story just for some reason.
So sweet, yeah.
We don't even know why he had that year off to coach his kids' football team, but
it's because he loved the kids so much.
It was heartwarming.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Love of the game.
They should adapt Sean Payton's life story into an animated show for kids. Because it's so heartwarming. It's something I'd love to raise my child knowing the details of Sean Payton's life and perhaps emulating him more than me.
You know what is heartwarming, and I mentioned this yesterday to Nordo, is our first preseason game is an NFL Network game. So the home team, one time will get an NFL Network game. I don't know what time Denver plays that day, but I really hope it's not 3:00 Central. So the anti-Vike Sean Payton can watch J.J. McCarthy run for 40. Throw for 30 and just light it up and just let him see that in nationally televised fashion so he can recognize the love he lost.
Well, he wanted Knicks from
the beginning.
One.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
just ask him. Yes.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to tell you about how he what did he say? That he forced us out of our 4th round pick.
Yeah, he's making a lot of sense this offseason.
He made us think that he was going to jump.
Yeah.
And
checkers?
Which really matters, because the Broncos are in the same conference as us. Oh, wait. They're in the same division. Oh, wait. They have us on the schedule. Oh, wait. So that thing was so stupid, he actually should have wanted to gyp the New York Jets.
Yeah, right.
In the same conference.
For them. Yes.
But he's so petulant. Because of some steam that got out that he didn't like, that he had to take that stupid shot. It didn't make sense, and I hope they win 3 games.
If Bo Nix ends up being better than J.J. McCarthy, I'm going to be crestfallen.
It's not happening.
It can't, right?
It's not going to happen.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, I'll take McCarthy 8.5 out of 10 times over Bo Nix.
Now, McCarthy has, by almost all accounts, looked good to this point.
Yeah.
You have been saying for months you think the timetables and the runway is extremely long for J.J. McCarthy. Mm-hmm. Has anything in these first days of practice changed your thinking on the timetable?
It's interesting you said that because I chatted about that right out of the gate yesterday, where it's like from my predictive standpoint, with no depth chart steam, I still think it's a cinch trifecta Darnold into Mullins into McCarthy.
Yeah.
So I still think that's the heavily favored trifecta. But with JJ, it's the more I watch him, and I've watched a lot of his throws, is the nuance is starting to happen. Like at rookie camp or mini camp, say it's a shorty or an intermediate, I'm watching it going, damn, man, you know more about quarterbacking than me, but that was a little Nolan Ryan-esque right there. Now he's lofting it. His accuracy and his confidence, because McCarthy, right hash, left sideline, left hash, right sideline, super hard throw. Cousins was extremely good at it. And McCarthy in college, extremely good at that. But it's a confidence play. It has to go quick twitch. The gift of the arm strength is one thing, but having the confidence to do it against guys at this level is another. That's starting to come together where he's timing that up and he's throwing guys open with difficult throws. It's just the nuance. Oh, and finally, it's the way he senses pressure. It's just natural. And you'll see it, if you watch camp clips or when you see him in these preseason games. It's whether his peripheral vision's unbelievable. He just has a natural sense. It's like I said yesterday, it's not that Cousins didn't sense it. Cousins took hits.
He did. He
bounced up
yes,
and hit you for 30 the next play. McCarthy ain't trying to get hit. I mean, he feels it and he runs.
Well, he's got the ability to run.
Yes,
he's got
but
the
he
mobility
runs
for that.
with his eyes down the field.
Yeah.
And that's that for me. I mean, I'm not trying to sound like Vince Lombardi here, but for me, eyes down the field. And do you loft it to the tight end for 6? Do you fire? He's strong enough to fire across his body, sort of. And do you get that in the intermediate? But no, his innate ability to sense where the pressure is coming from, and then the alacrity with which he runs, it's quick twitch. It's just to watch it come together. It's just fascinating because we don't see this often. Like with Teddy Bridgewater, that would be the last one. And then he had a preseason game against the Chargers, and then he was lost. He was lost for the year. Who was it before that? Christian Ponder. That was a different type of game style. Christian had a very accomplished career at Florida State University.
Academically.
Didn't throw it as hard as JJ. He just wasn't, he didn't run the same way. It's when McCarthy, as he continues to get up to speed, you're really going to like him. And I think you're going to like him a lot in these preseason games.
Well, and that was part of my, for Vikes Bites.
Vikes Bites.
Is I was kind of framing it out. If JJ McCarthy is just okay, and he's just a 21-year-old about to turn 22 in these preseason games, well, it's part of the development plan. What if he does absolutely blow our minds? Right now we're seeing those clips, and most of them are super positive. I think there's an aspect that needs to be played into, okay, he's not making 4 progressions every play. There's some eye contact with a specific route, and he's making the right play. The athleticism is there, all of that. But ultimately, development plan's awesome. What if he truly does blow us away starting Saturday against the Raiders? Yeah,
see that? I mean, with what he's going to face against the Raiders, the Browns, and the Eagles, it's. I mean, this is cliche, but it's not Dexter Lawrence.
Right.
It's not Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson, and the rest of that crew. It's not Bosa and the Niners and the way they do it. So. Sure. I understand what you're saying, and it's
because anything short of brilliance, then it's business as usual, and we're excited to see Sam and what he can do. But I don't know where that line sits, but I can already feel there's a bit of a tenor and a din that's starting to happen here among Vikings fans. Where it's like, what if he does absolutely blow our minds? And I'm hoping that happens. I just don't know how you handle it from there.
But there are a fair amount of Viking-centric social media sites that I'm just seeing too much. McCarthy's killing Darnold in training camp. No, he's not. I mean, he's not. They're just asked to do different things.
Exactly.
And McCarthy over the top to a wide receiver behind a first corner does not a career make. Because then if you want to go down that road, 3 throws later, he threw the worst pick we've seen all training camp. It's again, it's cliche as it is, enjoy the process of raising a 21-year-old quarterback who's incredibly engaging. has humility where he understands his lot in life and he doesn't complain about it. He's not like a martyr in it. He understands that this is hard, man. And the way things are handled now are dramatically different than when the regular season begins. So now you got to think the processing, NFL defenses, the complex nature of the playbook, and bam, just like Darnold, for better or for worse, has done it. Like it's what we said last year, man. It's okay. Dobbs had some moments. Jaron Hall had some decent moments. Then he got hurt. But when Mullins came in, it looked like the O'Connell offense. Now, there were interceptions at ends of games that would be problematic, but we would go from they're middle of the third quarter with 190 passing yards. Then Mullins the next game, middle of the third quarter, we got 370
away,
with one touchdown and one pick.
Yeah.
It's when the veterans know where the bones are buried. They know how to identify defenses quick twitch, and JJ will. You just have to wait.
We're impatient because he was the 10th player taken in the draft. He's the quarterback of the future. We all want it. We see training camp highlights of him connecting on nice passes, and we get antsy. But if he is the quarterback of the future, he's 21 now. We want him to be here when he's 31. We're not going to remember week 1 against the Giants. Week 2 against who? I don't know. Jets, Niners, then Texans, then Jets. We'll never remember that he didn't start those games when he is the starter for us. And we're gonna have to have patience, which we all think. I think fans understand that. Yeah. I think they do intellectually understand that, but emotionally, you get jacked up when you see all the highlights.
You get pretty happy. And I think part of that wave too, because I've seen it, and I love the rubidity. Let's get excited about this team. There were a couple prior to this onslaught that you're talking about of people look at every single possible positive thing that JJ's doing. There were a couple of people in their NFL national aggregators, right? Larger accounts. They were like, JJ's struggling in camp. People are, whispering about, was this the right decision to have him on the team?
Yeah, right.
There was the Dov Kleiman bit and a couple others that kind of went
Dov
with that.
Kleiman?
Just so again, Twitter aggregators, the national accounts. And so I think that's like the overcorrection in some regard, where it's like, first of all, you're dumb. No one's worried. I mean, no one knows enough at this stage to say that he's struggling in camp. And as a matter of fact, he did this thing that was better than Sam Darnold. So look at our 10th overall pick now, bleep hole.
Well, do you guys remember? I mean, I remember Justin Jefferson's training camp as being very nondescript.
Yeah, nondescript.
And, unlike, say, Randy Moss. Yeah. I've been here long enough, and you guys were younger, but I think you were in town at that point, Paul, right? First year. When Randy Moss's training camp was, oh my God, nobody can stop this guy. Yeah. And it's like, every practice, here's 5 touchdowns and, we can't overthrow that. Then
he's doing he's pirouetting into one. I was 13-year-old Nordo at Blakesley in Cato, hometown. And he's doing the pirouetting one-handed catches on the sidelines. He's stiff arming and mean mugging corner. I mean, it was a full-on heavyweight show from minute one with him.
And then you go to Justin Jefferson, who might end up having a career, probably not quite where Randy Moss is, but he's on a Hall of Fame trajectory. Yeah. And his training camp was mostly nondescript.
Right. Yeah.
We weren't seeing highlight clips. Yeah. We weren't, I remember you and I asking Kirk Cousins near the end of training camp. We're on the perch. Kirk is up joining us. And we asked him about Justin Jefferson. And he deflected it to, like wide receiver 5. Yeah. He said, I know people care about Justin Jefferson, but but what I really want to tell you is how, I don't remember who the kid was anymore, wide receiver 5 is doing. And I'm like, man, what does that mean?
I think the way we've laid out the McCarthy situation, it's analogous to 2024, where you're either, wow, look at that, you have to start, or wow, look at that, you don't belong.
Oh, the extremes.
Yeah, it's one or the other, and it's not. And I defer to the obviously the coaches with Kevin O'Connell and his expertise and wanting to win games as quickly as he can, and so therefore if Darnold appears to be the first guy because of with whom he's working at training camp, well the deference is the coaches, specifically this offensive minded coach. For me, he all the benefit goes that way.
Agreed.
However, they're not always right. Okay. And, like Norv Turner in Stefan Diggs' first year, 2015, I believe it was 2015. Diggs was the story of the entire offseason.
Yeah.
Putting Trey Waynes on skates, man. And then minicamp rolls around and he's killing the veterans. Well, Steph didn't play for basically the first 3 games. And it took an injury to Jarius Wright for him to emerge. And we're at Mile High in Denver. And Diggs, they got him up to speed that week. And, after the game, just remembering what Aqib Talib, Chris Harris, and Bradley Roby said about, whoa, where'd this guy come from? We hadn't seen anything on film. They were doing pirouettes. They were spinning. They were slipping. I mean, Diggs murdered them in that game. It was the game TJ Ward blitzed off the edge and Adrian whiffed on it. And it was a strip sack and the Broncos won the game. That's the year they went on to win the Super Bowl. But coaches aren't always right with these decisions either, where it was clear, and I love Norv, but it was clear. I mean, Diggs should have been in that bad boy right out of the gate.
Coaches are very conservative generally, and they tend to err on the side of, their veterans who they know and they trust and they've seen all the film on. And, you see that happen all the time. What I like about our coaching staff, and I don't want to make this sound too cheerleader-y, but
they're listening.
I'm not worried about Kevin O'Connell maximizing the career that J.J. McCarthy or any of the other offensive players are going to have. He's going to do that. I trust Kevin O'Connell. If we had a different coaching staff, one of the variables I would be having for J.J. McCarthy's success is, do we have the right coaches to let him be great? Then you look at Sam Darnold's career and the horrible coaching that he had, and we don't know if he had a Kevin O'Connell level of coaching in year one, would Sam Darnold have had a totally different career path. Instead, he had coaches that are almost entirely out of the league now as his head coaches and his offensive coordinators, and we don't know if they're, we don't know that Sam Darnold wouldn't have had a better, different career. I don't worry about that here. I don't worry about Kevin O'Connell getting the most out of J.J. McCarthy and maximizing his talent, because I think he's already proven that he can do that.
Well, I think that, and not only that, he's proven it, but also, how about all the players pre-draft? It's been reported on, quarterbacks wanted to be here, and these kids, they're laying out their futures. They probably understand, just as we watch it as outsiders, that this coaching situation doesn't work. And next hour, as a matter of fact, we're going to talk about some precarious quarterback spots and maybe a couple of guys that would their trajectory be different here versus where they currently are. And I think you can see that as these guys truly saw the opportunity that was here in Minnesota, and Kevin O'Connell's really the patriarch of all of that.
And look at Sam Darnold. You're Sam Darnold. You're trying to reboot your career and get your next big quarterback contract.
Yeah.
So what do? Your 1-year deal, only $10 million. He's the lowest paid veteran quarterback, starting quarterback in the league.
Damn.
You take your $10 million to go lead this team because you believe Kevin O'Connell's going to put you in a spot where, next February, you're sitting on a 5-year, $80 million deal.
Yeah.
And that could happen for Sam Darnold, and he chose to come here. He probably had other options, either as a starter or a backup someplace. He knew we were going to draft a quarterback, like many teams were, but he wanted to come here and cast his lot here because he thinks that's going to set him up on his next deal.
You're listening to the Friday Football Feast on KFAN.
Minnesota Vikings training camp is back, and we'll be there each day with great prizes up for grabs, including KFAN swag, preseason tickets, and a signed Jordan Addison helmet. Stop by and find our Mall of America street team and ask us how you can enter to win. And don't forget to ask us about our Mall of America mystery cards. Get your tickets to training camp today at Vikings.com/training camp.
So the HOF game was last night in Canton. They played basically 2.5 quarters before inclement weather canceled the game. And speaking of the HOF, the 2024 Hall of Fame inductees include Dwight Freeney, Devin Hester, Andre Johnson, Julius Peppers, Patrick Willis, and the senior admissions would be Randy Gradishar and the former Bear Steve McMichael. The HOF weekend is always a really cool time, boys.
Have you guys been there? Have you done HOF weekend? I imagine we've had games there, right? And so you've been there for HOF?
Yeah, once. We it was like 2013 or 15, whatever. But
Steelers HOF game?
Yep, it was against the Steelers, and there was inclement weather. But we received a trip or a tour of the Hall of Fame before that. It was really cool.
Yeah, the Hall of Fame is really cool. I've done it one time. And a couple of memories I have of the Hall of Fame game weekend experience and the induction weekend experience. You get to really, almost anybody can interact with tons of the alumni from the Hall of Fame. They bring in hundreds.
You mean weekend of the game?
Yeah, weekend of the game. Yeah, for that weekend.
It's not like a year-round
correct.
thing.
Yeah, I'm just talking weekend of the Hall of Fame game.
But they do pay. I would assume pay. There's compensation involved.
Oh yeah,
like big namers come in there all the time.
You bet.
Specifically, I think it begins in like March, like late February or March, and it runs through, I think, the NFL season.
It's there's a lot of great history, obviously there. The thing, the part I remember most is chatting with Jack Youngblood.
Wow.
And you'll remember him, Paul. You're old enough.
Ham.
Youngblood and Ham were the Rams linebackers. And during a time when the Rams were the Vikings' biggest rival in the 70s, they would knock each other in and out of the playoffs, back and forth all the time. Yeah. And so I had a chance to have an extended conversation with him. And two things I always remember. Number one is I said, "How is your brother Jim?"
Yeah.
He takes a big sigh. He's like, "He's not my brother."
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Number one, you mean to tell me there was another Jay Youngblood on your team that was not related to you?
Right.
And he goes, yes.
Wow.
And then I said, I'm so sorry to be the millionth person to confuse this for you. Please forgive me. I was like 6 years old when you were playing, so I'm really, really sorry. And then the other thing that he said that I'll never forget is the Rams would have these playoff games in Minnesota, outdoors. Then the old Mets Stadium. And he said, back then, the planes would land on the runway, and you would just go down the stairs onto the tarmac, and you'd walk in. And he said, we would go down the stairs in January, and we already knew we had lost.
Oh, wow.
We had it'd be 10 degrees, and we knew it was game over, and all we wanted to do was get back in the jet, turn around, and go back to Southern California.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't believe those names. Like Andre Johnson, for instance, and this is dumb because I lived and loved football throughout his entire career. Nearly 15,000 receiving yards, only 70 touchdowns. I mean, for a guy to have that kind of loyalty to Houston during some of those awful years, kind of creeps up during the end. I think that he would have been part of the Matt Schaub, Gary Kubiak era.
That is, yeah. So Schaub was his best years, the Matt Schaub years.
So the Arian Foster peak, he may have been in the mix with that. Steve Slayton behind him, some of that. But Andre, now I'm getting to the age. You guys are a little bit older than I am. But I'm getting to the age where it's like, I lived and loved football for all of Julius Peppers' career. Like those sorts of things where I've watched these HOF things for years, and you mentioned it, and of course some of the coaches and things that go in from a year, I got to look up and remind myself, and especially Hester, but like now, and Freeney, of course, all those great years with the Colts. Like now I'm getting to that age where I truly was an educated football fan for these guys' careers.
And now they're in the Hall of Fame.
And now
they're 5 years out.
Correct.
Yes.
No, I absolutely love that. And that just kind of popped in my head like, oh yeah, Andre was a badass forever.
You guys remember how long Andre Johnson played?
Vaguely.
14 years.
Jeez.
Wow. That is a long time for a wide receiver.
When I look at these names outside of Andre Johnson, all right, so Andre is AFC with Houston, but Dwight Freeney, I believe, finished his career with Arizona, and so we got that. I think
you're right.
We got Devin Hester the Cane with the Bears. We got Julius Peppers. I think he finished his career with Green Bay, but obviously did a lot of damage with the Carolina Panthers. Patrick Willis with the San Francisco 49ers.
Julius Peppers pick six at Lambeau off of Ponder.
I mean, I look at these names, and what goes quick twitch is like with Dwight Freeney, from a Viking standpoint. We had a Thursday night game at Arizona right at the end of Dwight Freeney's career. and Carson Palmer was quarterback for Arizona. It was a game the Vikings came into it with like 7 starters on defense out. Terrence Newman had to play safety.
Oh, man.
I remember that game.
Xavier Rhodes, he was playing a bunch of different positions. And Adrian Peterson, in essence, was carrying everything that was Vikings football on his broad shoulders that evening because they were big dogs, Thursday Night Football against Larry Fitzgerald Jr. and a good Arizona team.
He led the NFL that year in rushing, by the way. That was the comeback after the tough 2014 with his son and the switch.
Yeah.
He led the NFL in rushing in 2015. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the as I recall, and I'm pretty sure it was Freeney, the Cardinals won the game. It was a tightly contested game, and the Vikings played with fortitude that you had to have to win a game like that with so many starters down. And they had offensive guys down, too. Freeney ran around Matt Khalil and strip-sacked whomever the quarterback was, and the game was over.
It was Teddy.
Yeah, it was Teddy. So that's what I remember with Freeney right at the end of his career. Devin Hester, being at Soldier Field, and
I know.
and it's 4th down.
Many of us know exactly where this is going.
I can never remember how Soldier Boy goes, like the start of it, like,
Ooh!
Yeah. And he didn't just walk out there. What's up, brother? He didn't just walk out there. I mean, he bounced and danced to it and went to his spot. And, Devin Hester was the type of player where it was like Jordan rules because you would watch back some of these punt return touchdowns. I mean, you could talk to Heath Farwell about it, who's, I think, special teams coordinator for Jacksonville. But like Heath Farwell got blocked in the back, and there were so many illegal blocks on so many players that were of the envelope pushing variety because Devin got those calls.
Right.
Because Devin went so fast and was so twitchy that it's almost a look the other way situation. Brett Favre's final game of his career, 2010, College Stadium, ton of snow, frozen field, Corey Wooten throws him down, breaks him, and career's over. Devin Hester set a National Football League record that night. I believe it was a punt return, a punt or a kick return. It was a National Football League record.
I believe it was a punt.
For the most.
Didn't he run it back into the open side of it? Because I was at that game in the west end zone there. I think he ran it right back towards my direction.
He might have, but he set a record that evening. But Hester, the crazy thing about Devin is Devin was a good receiver at Miami. Not a great receiver, but a good receiver. And the intel on him was that he just didn't get it. I mean, it's like he could not figure this thing out from, the route tree and the option routes and just like choosing the right option. So he barely played receiver except for 2007. We're at Soldier Field. Vikings had lost at Soldier Field a million years in a row. They're going to win the game eventually on a Ryan Longwell walk-off. But Hester put a double move on Dwight Smith very late in the game. Bursich went nuts. First season on the Vikings radio network is the game was super tight, and it was a deep touchdown pass to Devin Hester where Dwight Smith bit on a double move, and that eventually, I think it tied the game. So didn't play much receiver, but I remember that moment from a receiving standpoint. Julius Peppers with a pick off Ponder at Lambeau Field. I mean, that was as loud as I've heard Lambeau Field, maybe in all the games I've called there. But in 2009, Julius Peppers was working Bryant McKinney so badly on Sunday Night Football, Brett Favre kept taking hit after hit after hit. And Childress wanted to pull him. And it's not because you're bad. It's because I can't have you get we got a Super Bowl team here, man. I can't have you get hit anymore.
Yeah.
And after the game, Favre with the Mississippi drawl was kind of like, I've never been asked to come out of a game only trailing by 1 point.
Yes.
So
right.
Of course I said no. Right. So then you kind of learn like who runs the metaphorical ship. But Peppers that evening, Julius was a very good basketball player at North Carolina, just an unbelievable athlete. But Patrick Willis finally, Willis was in that Greg Lewis game, and they had Willis and Alden Smith and Abreu Franklin and Manny Lawson. I mean, they had a really, really tough defense. And Willis also played for the Raiders when Cordell Patterson had a kick return touchdown in a game at Oakland Alameda. So it's cool seeing these names and remembering some of the vivid moments. Sadly, some of them are negative that they had against the Vikings.
Well, yeah, these are all great players who played against the Vikings. Mm-hmm. So, we have memories of them doing great things against us, unfortunately. The Hester thing I remember, Chris Cluey was the punter for one of those games, and Hester was killing him, and Cluey kept kicking to him.
Wow.
And then, and the announcers, you don't hear it because you're doing the game, but the announcer's like, why does Cluey keep kicking to Hester? Just kick it away from him, kick it out of bounds, whatever. And after the game, Cluey's like, I'm trying not to kick at him. Yeah. It's not Madden. I can't just make the ball go out of bounds, shaded out of bounds.
Yeah.
This game is hard, and I'm trying not to kick it to him, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, Devin is one of the great badasses I've ever seen in all the years I've called games. He was that kind of a threat because you see great receivers, great running backs, great tight ends.
Yeah.
But they're reliant on getting the ball from the quarterback. They're reliant consistently on people doing the right thing to get 10 yards. In the punt and kick return game, I mean, there's so much natural gift to that where you can just outrun somebody's good angle.
Yeah.
And Devin was thick, man, and he could shake tackles nicely, too. I'm a huge Devin Hester fan. Now, Harrison Smith and the HOF. Will there be a day? We're feasting at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center talking about 22, the Hitman getting into the Hall of Fame. Let's hit that next, plus much more, into the second hour of The Feast on KFAN.